right, and welcome to another episode of Butler's Babble. We aim to empower, motivate, and inspire you. And today's no different. We have a great guest for you today. A little spring cleaning for you there. Remember, go to butlersbabble.com, check out all past episodes, learn more about the show itself, and eventually, hopefully, we'll have some merchandise to sell on there. So make sure you keep going back and checking it out. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anything that you can get it on audio version, or if you want the video part, which is the way I like it, go to youtube.com/ at Butler's Babble and check us out. So today we have Tessa Belanger for you from Past the Sage. Tessa, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
No, we're glad to have you. And why don't you give everybody a little background about Tessa growing up, where you're from, and a little bit more background about who you are.
So I'm Tessa Belanger. I'm half Algonquin and half Vietnamese. I'm from Zibi, and I was born and raised in Ottawa, Quebec. I am currently a family support worker. I do music. I'm an author. I jingle dress dance, and I'm also a mother.
And so give us a little background about what you were like growing up. Were you rambunctious? Were you a troublemaker? Were you always out there having fun? What kind of person were you growing up?
Yeah, so I would say growing up, I was very, very outside. I liked to do theater. I liked to sing and dance. Um, and I was always very like outgoing, but definitely shy when people got too close, if that makes sense. Like I was extroverted in front of strangers and then almost like introverted in front of like people that I love.
That's different. I've never heard of that before. It's usually the opposite way.
Yeah, yeah. So growing up, I had two different households. So I had my mom's side, my Indigenous side, which, as for a lot of different Indigenous peoples, we grew up around a lot of substance abuse and unhealthy relationships and that kind of thing. And then on my dad's side, it was like very like strict Asian household. So it was kind of hard to like walk in two different worlds. I always related more to my Indigenous side, I would say. But I mean, growing up, that was really hard too because I'm the eldest of nine siblings, and that was like a very big weight to have on my shoulders. Growing up, with my mom and then all the kids as well.
No, definitely that would be a lot. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today happened when you were young, which we'll get to, of course. What about schooling? Were you pretty good in school or
Yeah, I would say elementary was, a breeze. And then coming into high school, I struggled a lot, I would say. Just being a high schooler, it was a lot. So struggled with a lot of mental health issues. I remember I think I took 3 or 4 months off grade 9, and yeah, so it's a blessing that I graduated.
well, and we're glad you did, of course. So why don't we go back then? Because like you said, a lot of this started when you were younger, of course. And so why don't we go back to because this probably goes into play of why you were like that in high school, probably. Because I think a lot of this started back when you were around like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, so actually, the reason why I created Past the Sage was due to a personal decision to come out with my secret that I kept for 20 years, which was that I got sexually abused when I was younger for a couple of years. And I never told any of my family, I never told any friends. I think I only told one person pretty much. And holding that secret for 20 years was, quite a lot. And so that inspired me to create Past the Sage as a resiliency and fostering storytelling as like a form of healing.
No, definitely. And so it started at an early age, like you said, you were sexually abused, and that, like you said, it take you a long time to come out with that. And um, when you did come out, did you have a lot of people um, didn't believe you? Did you have a lot of people saying, "Oh, you're just saying that," because this was a family member?
So actually, so I got abused 3 times in my life. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, it's just the dark humor. So the first
No, I know
time
exactly.
the
Yep.
first time was, when I was 4 or 5, that was, like, my mom's, partner, and then, when I was, like, 11, 12, it was a family member. That one I actually did tell my family. Nothing really ever happened. I I would just wanted it to go away, and eventually it did. And then the 3rd time was, my friend's father. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely shaped who I am today, but it has a lot of good it made a lot of good qualities about me too, especially, like, in motherhood. Like, I don't allow my son to go to, like, sleepovers and stuff. I know that sounds very strict, but it's more of a safety thing.
Mhm. No, exactly. Like you said, when you were like back the first time, you were only like 4 years old, and it was from your mom's partner. Um, and but you of course kept that in. Did that last a long time? Like, because you said the next time wasn't until about 11 or so. So how long did that go on for when you were four?
I would say, I would say probably about a year and a half. When we're young, we don't really have like time constructs like the way that we do now as adults. But I would say a good year and a half sounds, um, reasonable to me to look back. And due to like trauma response, I don't remember like a lot of my childhood. Like there are huge gaps in my childhood that I honestly just can't remember. And then I'm like, hey, like my brain's trying to protect me. So maybe I don't want to remember.
No, and that's common. I've heard that very common with a lot of people, that they do black out certain parts of their history because of some trauma that's happened. And so I can understand where you would have got that from. Now, if you can remember back then, um, I'm sure like when it first started, you're very young, you probably don't even know what's going on. Maybe to you, it was something you felt it was something that was normal. I don't know. Like I'm speaking ignorant, of course, because I don't know. I've never been in that situation. But at that age, you probably don't know. I don't know if you knew the difference between right and wrong, or if that was right and wrong. And how did it affect you um, in regards to your social life with family members, with friends outside, and that? Because, like you said, it was a secret. You kept it inside. It's not like you told anybody.
Yeah. So honestly, I was fine, like as a child. Like, and it sounds so crazy, but I like handled it really, really well. I went to school. I played with friends. I never had an issue being social. I think the only thing that really, kind of, like, messed me up in, like, the future was now that I'm in counseling and stuff, I can see how things interlink, but I was not able to sleep alone in my house up until recently. I would need to stay on FaceTime or beg my partners or best friends to sleep over because I was, like, crippling anxiety when I was home alone, and, um also, my counselor has told me, like, when people get abused at a young age, they kind of learn that my boundaries don't matter and my body is here to please others. And so I carried that into a lot of my adult relationships, which ended up very unhealthy, right? So that was like a whole thing.
Definitely. And I can see how that would happen, because we have had past guests on here that's went through a lot of stuff in their past, and it does affect your future too, of how you act in future and certain things that you do. So like you said, that you probably acted normal, because like you said, you didn't know like if it was wrong or not. What when you did finally come out about that, was it your mom you first told, or was it a friend and they said, oh, that's not right, or something? Like, how did you decide that you were going to come out and talk about that when you were 4? Because I'm sure it was your mom's partner, it's hard to say.
Yeah, so honestly, like, why I never told my mom, or my family really was I never wanted to, like, hurt my mom or push her into doing something. Like, they were in a really, really toxic, like, relationship, like, very abusive. I knew that she would, like, kill him if she knew this information. So, I was basically, like, keeping her out of jail. Um yeah, so that's kinda where I was at with it. I actually didn't tell my mom about this until I published the book, and then while I was giving her her copy, I sat down with her and I had a conversation with her, and that was, like, one of the hardest conversations I probably have had in my life, especially just I felt more bad that I kept it a secret for so long from her, and I didn't want her to like, read about it and that be the first time that she hears about it. So, I did have a conversation with her. I had told my dad, I would say, like, a year and a half ago, under the influence, though, and so it wasn't like a heartfelt conversation. It was more like, "I got abused."
And to this day, is your mom still with that same partner?
No, he's actually on the run for abusing his other stepdaughter, from back then.
So this was a common thing for him then. So,
Yeah, I
which is
actually just,
unfortunate. And
when I had the conversation with my mother, she actually told me that he hurt this other young woman a lot more than I remember being abused. Um, and so I actually don't know if a lot of those same things happened to me. I can only remember one specific act being done and then over a span of like a year and a half, right?
sorry that you had to go through all that. So then that goes for about a year and a half, and then it just stops, I guess. Now, is that did he just stop, or was that your mom and him broke up, or how did that work? Where it just ended, or do you remember?
To my knowledge, and I'm getting this from the conversation that I had with my mother, they broke up from her, like, leaving in the middle of the night and, like, going to, like, a shelter with us. I was probably, like, 5 when they broke up, so my brother was probably, like, 3.
Okay. So then you go. That's done, and you're going to school, and according to you, like things are all fine. You're just like a normal kid. You're out there, you're playing, nothing. And then you get into junior high area, and then you say it happens again with a family member.
Yeah, so this time around, because it had happened to me before, I kind of, like, knew the signs of what was, like, kinda sketchy, so I didn't fall for the bait, like, the and it's so stereotypical, the bait that was given. It was literally like, "Come, there's candy." Like, I was like, "You can't fool me." Like, you know what I mean? And then ended up not going to get the candy and then still got abused by this person, like, in the back of a car. I don't know. But, yeah, so that actually triggered, an anxiety disorder that I battled for, I wanna say, I mean, I still battle it, but I don't pull out my hair anymore. But it's an anxiety disorder called trichotillomania, and essentially, it's when your nervous system is just on overload from whatever experiences, you had, and you start, like, ripping out tons of your hair. Now that I, like, look back at it, I probably looked crazy because I remember, like, distinctly remember being in, like, grade 9 and, like, ripping out chunks in the back of the class, like, listening to screamo music and, like, ripping out chunks of my hair. But yeah.
No, then that's gotta be so. It only happened the one time with this person.
Yeah, that happened the one time.
Oh, okay. And did he ever, um, like, did you ever report it? And did he ever get like charged or anything?
No. So one thing that's like huge and like just, low income families, families that struggle to be below poverty lines, there's a lot of sexual abuse that goes into these family dynamics. And honestly, more often than not, they get pushed to the side. And it's sad to say, but almost every single one of my family member has been, abused, and then nothing happens to the abuser. It's literally just pushed under the rug and everybody just dilly-dallies, and that's, a sad reality for a lot of the people in our community. So, yeah, nothing ever happened, with that, but into my, teenage years, my older teenage years, I wanna say I was in grade probably 9 or 10 when my friend's dad had molested me. I went to the cops with that situation because my mom forced me to.
Oh, so you report it because your mom forced you to report it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was living, across the street. Basically, it's like my best friend's house and then my house and then the street. And what had happened was we were, having a barbecue, drinking as like 16-year-olds do, and we ended up having a sleepover. And whatever happened, but my mom, I messaged her on, like, a old-timey computer that my friend had in her bedroom, and I messaged her and I was like, "This just happened to me. Can you come get me?" And I've never seen female rage before, like, in such intensity. Like, she kicked the door down, and what was messed up was the mother and the father that had just, hurt me were locked themselves in the bedroom. They didn't even come to see, like, my mother. They hid, and so to me, that was like, that's a red, like, that's messed up.
Definitely. And so was it just the father that sexually assaulted you, or was it the mother too?
It was just the father, but I feel like the mom kinda knew what was going on in my personal, like, intuition.
Up until that date, though, I'm sure like this is your best friend's dad. So up until then, was there any signs that he would be like that with you, or was there like was he just a normal guy to you in the past, and then this just happened, or because of drinking, or
We didn't really see him around, like, I don't have any really recollection of seeing him around barbecues prior to that, like, maybe, like, a hi, hello every now and then, but he was not, like, integrated into, our lives in any, form.
Okay. So you had no, it's not like you, had any knowledge of him doing this to somebody in the past or anything like that, so it's not
No.
like you were uncomfortable going over there with your friend and hanging out and having drinks, you
No,
didn't know that was
even,
gonna happen.
no,
Um,
even that night, like, when it happened, I had woke up my 2 best friends with me, and they were even very shocked, like, the daughter, my best friend, and then our other friend that had slept over, they were in super shock, didn't really believe me, and, like, hey, I don't blame people for not believing. Nobody wants to believe, like, that these horrible, like, acts of violence are happening to a child, right? So, I didn't take any offense to that, and they did actually apologize to me, a few years back now, but yeah.
so if I could have misunderstood. So this happened, and at first you didn't report anything, you actually you guys went to sleep or something, it was when you guys woke up and you told them what happened, and then you called your mom?
No, I called my mom as soon as I woke up and, like, had this strange man around me and exit the room in, like, fear that I woke up. I told my mom, and then she, like, was living next door, right? So or across the street rather, and she, like, kicked open the door. I left that night. We were actually the reason why I was sleeping over other than the barbecue, the next day we were supposed to go to Fond du Lac on, like, an Indigenous, like, school trip, basically, and I had to miss that school trip because I did, like, rape kits and stuff at the hospital, and it was just, like, a whole thing.
And did he ever, I know you said they've apologized since then, but did he ever get charged with that or
Yeah, yeah, he got supercharged. I had to testify in court, which was really scary when I was, like, 15, 16. But they were nice to me, they let me do it in a room by myself, so I didn't have to see him, and to my knowledge, he is not allowed, like, 10 feet in front of, like, a children's area and stuff like that, so I'm glad that I did report that one.
no, definitely, because he's probably on some sort of a sexual predator directory or
Yeah,
something, I guess,
yeah.
as a pedophile or stuff like that. And it always amazes me when this happens to people and they wonder why people are afraid to come forward when this happens because like you said yourself, when you come out with it, people they don't believe you right away.
Mhm.
They say, "Oh, you're just lying," or "You're just trying to get somebody in trouble," or and it makes it more nerve wracking for somebody to come forward when they're like, "Well, they're not going to believe me, or they're going to blame me saying it was my fault."
Yeah, another, factor to that too, I find, of course, the justice system has quite a few cases to handle, but they drag it out. Like, I don't think he got prosecuted probably until 2 years after, where I was just looking to heal, forget about it, move on with my life, and then I was like, I had to get pulled into court, and, like, that was really hard.
No, definitely that would be hard. I'm glad you did it though, because people like this do have to be taken off the street. So, or at least punished for what they did. And like you said, he's now on the directory and not allowed around kids and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
hopefully, by you coming forward, you've protected other children and other women and or boys or whatever from
yep,
going through the same thing you did. So that's I'm
yep,
glad that you did that.
yep,
So going through all this trauma that you did, so happens to you at 4 years old, happens again when you're around 11, and then it happens again. You said, I think you said 15, 16 when that happened. How did that affect you? Because to me, the way it sounds, that could have been why maybe you struggled a lot in school when you get to high school and that with all this stuff going on in your brain and all this stuff going on externally. It's got to be hard for you not only to study in school, but to trust anybody in school, whether even an adult figure like a teacher or something.
yeah, so I mean, also the group of people that I was around, I kind of, started to get into, like, smoking weed and drinking a lot, surrounding myself with people that were gonna do the same, things, and it was really just a coping mechanism, at the time. I'm not blaming my 15-year-old self for having, like, an alcohol issue, but, yeah, so I was definitely not doing good in school at that time. Mind you, to like, not to blame my mom's side or anything, but there was no push really there either. If I wanted to skip school, I was met with open arms at home, you know what I mean?
Okay, because and like I said, I have it's and I could be totally wrong. I'm no doctor or anything, but I think a lot of that trauma could have went into your schooling too, and that's why, like you said, you maybe gravitated more to these students that were doing the alcohol, doing the drugs, because you
Yeah,
said it was a coping mechanism. You don't have to think about that other stuff.
exactly, exactly. So it all plays a role.
Did you did graduate, like you said, thankfully.
Mhm.
Now, after all of this, how did this affect you in your adult life?
So going into my adult life, I would say, still have trichotillomania. I'm just able to manage it better now. I, was an adult not being able to sleep alone in my house. Like that is not okay, like at all. And so that was like a huge struggle for me. So then in turn, because I was so scared of being alone, I actually would have like it just got me into like stupid stuff where like I would meet like not strangers, but just people that I wouldn't really care to be around. I would like invite them to my house to sleep over. Like, it just led me down a lot of, like, dark paths, I would say, and, yeah, I got drinking, a lot. I used that as a coping mechanism for years. I actually just recently got sober from alcohol, so that's been a turning point, for me, and why I kind of decided to do it
Congratulations.
was Thank you. But the reason why I decided to do it wasn't because I would like felt like it was an issue in my life. I just felt like it wasn't aligning with the values that I hold now as a healing adult.
Mhm. No, definitely. I can see that. And I can see where you're coming from because you said going into your adult life, you just didn't want to sleep alone. You didn't like you were inviting people that you normally wouldn't invite into your home or into your life. And I think,
Yeah,
like you said, it's just because you maybe that need to have somebody around you. You felt like you needed somebody there as a protector, maybe. And in
absolutely.
retrospect, it was actually bringing people that you needed protected against, actually.
Literally, and what's, interesting about the, paranoia and the fear and the anxiety about sleeping alone is as soon as the sun came up, I was fine, and that has always stuck with me for a really long time, I don't know why, but as soon as daylight breaks out, I'm good, like, I could be alone, it's fine. But as soon as the sun goes down,
Mhm.
it's a lot and anxious and anxiety, and I would literally stay up until my eyes couldn't open anymore, and even then, I would get, like, looped into sleep paralysis and, like, unsettling dreams and stuff like that as well, just because my subconscious was so, like, torn.
I'm wondering too, um, with the different sexual abuses that you went through at all 3 stages, were they all done in the evening?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the first, occurrence when I was 4 or 5 was, like, kind of like a nighttime and daytime kind of thing, just like whenever my mom wanted to go out. She was young, she had me at 15, right? So you can imagine, me as a 5-year-old, she'd probably be 15, 20. So 20-year-olds go outside, they wanna have fun, they wanna enjoy their life, so I was home alone a lot with him.
No, that would make sense, and I'm wondering that I was just trying to get the you say it once the daylight came, you were fine, but when it got nighttime and it's time to sleep, you couldn't sleep and fall asleep and sleep alone, and I was wondering if that was maybe one of the reasons is because in the back of your mind, you're thinking, "Well, if I go to sleep, something bad's gonna happen to me."
Yeah, 100%. I could definitely see that being a contributing factor, 100%.
Now, do you find that even in personal relationships, not just with that, like you said, you were just bringing random people home that you normally wouldn't bring home, and that, but just in your actual personal relationships, intimate relationships, like boyfriends, things like that, did a lot of this affect those relationships in a way of the type of people you went out with, or even if you were with a person that was fine and you felt protected with it, it maybe pushed them away because you were more, what's the guarded, I guess, because of all this stuff happening?
I would say how I handled a lot of my relationships prior to this year was codependency, like heavily codependent, like leaning on your partner, needing to be with them 24/7. That's how I felt safe with somebody. So I needed to be like with them every single day of every and that's not healthy. That is not a healthy way to be with a partner. And growing up, seeing my mom get, like, physically abused, I definitely found, a couple partners that, struggled with substance abuse as well, like alcoholism, and had like, the same kind of, like, domestic violence, tendencies as well.
No, exactly. Because I find that a lot with people that when they go through stuff like this, it does affect relationships later on because it's either blocking these relationships or it's contributing to the breakups because
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff comes in the forefront and it's hard for the partner to deal with a lot of that stuff too. But luckily for you, the one thing that's come out of some of your relationships is you got a beautiful young baby boy, of course. I think it was a boy, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I was
He's
always
gonna
looking
be
at a
5.
positive side, of course, because
Yeah.
I'm a grandfather myself now, and it all comes full circle again, and it just shows you that that brings your pride and joy. Um, being a mom, and if I'm not mistaken, you're a single mom.
Mhm.
So how does this affect you as a single mom?
Yeah, so just to clarify, I am a single mom, but Micaiah has a great father. Um, just wanted to put that out there. But how that affected me as a mother, I would say super guarded, super strict, a lot of boundaries. I drill into my son's head like yes and no touch, safe and unsafe touch. He has like a specific thing that he'll yell if anybody ever touches him. Like it's drilled into his brain, and I have drilled it into his brain. He's not allowed at sleepovers, but then I do feel bad, like, as guarded and safe as that is, like, he does miss out on, sleepovers with his friends and stuff like that, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, honestly, so I don't really feel bad.
No, I don't blame you. And still, at 5 years old, it's still kind of young for sleepovers anyway. So I don't think that's a big thing. But I can understand you being the strict part. I know with my wife and with our daughters growing up, we were always considered the strict parents because
Yep.
we lived in front of the junior high or the elementary school that my daughters went to, and it was right across the street from us. And I couldn't believe it at grade I guess this would have been grade 7, grade 8, my one daughter, and she's in bed. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock, something. She's in bed. And some students of hers that are in her class at about 11 o'clock at night, as we're watching TV, I can see out the window them walking by our house. And I'm like, where are these parents? Like,
Yeah,
there's
no,
no
that's
reason kids should be
crazy.
out at that late. So I can
And I
understand
mean,
you. No, and you can understand that.
I, um I used to envy, like, kids like that, and that's one reason, not the main reason, but one big reason why I wanted to live with my mom was because I thought it was so cool that people didn't like, we didn't have rules and stuff like that, and, like, not to downplay her parenting because she's a great woman, but when you have a bunch of other kids, you're not super strict, you know what I mean? And on my dad's side, I felt like there was way too many rules happening over here. I did feel kind of like an outcast as well, being the only Indigenous child that is going through my own like whole other world, and then they were just very focused on their children.
No, exactly. And I could totally understand that. I mean, um, you're the one that feels like the outsider, and it shouldn't be that way. Um, and I shouldn't
Yeah.
say like a lot about with the other parents at all because I'm not saying I'm the best parent. I make tons of mistakes growing up and that, and to this day I still do, and I'm sure my daughters will tell you every time I make a mistake. So, and it's not easy, but I think, like you said, I think with all the stuff that happened to you in the past, it is going to make you a bit more strict mom because you don't want to see the same things you went through, your children go through. So I can understand that, and I bet now having a little child maybe now you're a little bit more stricter on who you do personal relationships with now too, because this is somebody that now is going to be your son's going to be
Yeah,
introduced to, and you want to make sure it's somebody that's going to be safe for them.
for sure. So actually, I was kind of living like a little bit of like a Hannah Montana lifestyle, I would say, for a few years of his life. Um, Hannah Montana as in like when I had him in my care, I would be like going to work, not drinking, super present, super aware, everything that I was supposed to be doing. And then the weeks that I did not have him in my care, I was kind of like party animal, dealing with people that I shouldn't have been, getting myself into situations, and dating a partner that was very toxic. So I never like had them really together. And I thought that that was okay. Like I was like, okay, well, if he's not around my son, then that's fine. Little did I know, 3 years later into the relationship, like, is so toxic that even though they're not seeing each other, it's affecting mommy, and I'm crying in front of my son all the time, and so, yeah, like, it took me a really long time to get out of, like, a unhealthy dynamic, but what made me realize that it was so unhealthy was my friends telling me that I'm starting to be impatient with my son because I'm so depressed, and I was like, "Okay, clock it. I'm not gonna be impatient with my son due to external factors and relationships that I'm choosing to be in. Like, that's beyond unfair. And so that was the only thing that really took me away from that unhealthy dynamic, I would say.
And sometimes that's all it takes is it's you think that everything you're doing is okay. And you think, oh no, he's fine. He understands. Mommy needs some time to do this and do that too and that. And and you're going down this rabbit hole yourself. You're partying, you're drinking. I don't know if you're into drugs at that time. But as soon as you start finding out it's affecting your little one, and then boom, eureka, that's when it clicks on you. It's like, no, I can't put my son through this. This is, I guess, when you start getting help.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I never drank in front of my kid. I was never the type to, I'm so against bringing people to the house when he's home. I really thought that living this double lifestyle was going to be sustainable long term until I had the good friends that are around me tell me like, no, your other lifestyle is starting to leak into your motherhood now, and you either fix up or you can't claim that you are all that you claim to be, right? So I was like, okay, wake up call. We're going to cut that off and focus on actually being healthy instead of being healthy half of the time.
Definitely. And now did you find it, you were able to just cut cold turkey and all that stuff? Did you have to go for help to, like, stop the drinking and things like that?
Um, no, I definitely didn't do it all by myself. I definitely leaned into the community a lot. I started to go to like wellness programs. The more that I started to focus on past the sage, the less I felt called and held to these destructive people and situations. So that's kind of like where I'm at now, is like really pouring my all in focused on my company. And then I don't feel the need. It's fulfilling enough for me to not look backwards.
No, good. I'm glad. You always gotta move forward 'cause, it looks like you're on a good path right now. So why don't we get into a little bit of that? Because you're doing a lot better now. I know you and I talked a week ago, and you're just so full of life, and you're always smiling and laughing. And I like to see people like that. So tell us more about you now, how you're getting through things, and tell us about your company, Passage of Light or Passage of Sage, Pass the Sage.
Past the
Tell us a bit
sage,
more about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, so again, my book came from a personal decision to tell my story, speak my truth, and then I kind of thought that that was an interesting idea, and I was like, maybe other people want to speak their truth too. So then I created Past the Sage, and now we have this like huge book with like 50 different authors, and we have some artwork in there as well. And it's community led, and I also donate 25% to charity on a 6 month basis. So that's been like a really like life changing stage in my life. Just being really, really driven and focused has kept me away from a lot of negatives.
No, definitely. And is there a website of Pass the Sage or tell me more about the company itself? Because I know the book is called Pass the Sage, but you actually have an actual company called that too.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've ever heard of chicken noodle soup for the soul, but essentially it's this like
I've heard definitely.
branch, and they have like all these other type of like anthologies. There's like chicken noodle soup for the soul like for dog lovers. You know what I mean? And I just thought that was so cool that you can have like a million different like things, a million different anthologies in the same kind of company. So I kind of took that idea and I was like, let's indigenize it. And that's what I did. But yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. So is if anybody wants to go check out, it's a website. Is it like passthesage.com or
Yep, www.passthesage.com. I also just I haven't dropped it yet, but I'm working on this guided reflection journal. So essentially I facilitate creative writing workshops, and they're based around this workbook. So there's a lot of reflection prompts, grounding tools, and really like my heart of the business is to amplify Indigenous voices and get people to speak their truth. And so workshops and more anthologies to come, more guided reflection journals to come. And yeah.
I think that's awesome. Tell us a bit about the book itself. If people wanted to purchase the book, where can they go to purchase the book?
Yep. So it's available on Amazon, Kindle, Google Books, I think it's also on Barnes& and Nobles. I'm not sure if you have a lot of, like, American, listeners, but we put it on Barnes& and Nobles, so, it's also available there. But yeah, so there's about 50 different contributors in this book, and shout out to all the contributors because these stories are really, really heavy, and that's another reason why I made the guided, reflection journal was because the stories are so heavy talking about, like, childhood abuse and just everything negative in, like, being Indigenous is, like, in this book, but it has a lot of, like, upsides too, and talks about, how people got out of drug abuse and sort of those sort of things. So this was kind of a soft place to land after reading the book, kind of like to reflect on yourself and your own experiences as well.
No, definitely. I think that's awesome. I think everybody can take something out of that book, which is really nice. I like that idea for it. And can they get the book through your website or?
Yep, you can get the book from my website as well. But yeah, I would say Amazon is the easiest, and then I'm in the process of releasing the guided journal right now. Right now, the only way that you can access it is if you get have me facilitate a workshop. But I'm working on having it on Amazon too.
That's awesome. And if somebody wants to hire you to do like a speaking engagement, that how can they get a hold of you for that? Just through the website, or is there an email you want to throw out there? Or
I would say through my, website, like passthesage.com, you can find all my social media on the website, and then my email is passthesage with 2 E's at gmail.com because somehow Pass the Sage was already, like, taken. I looked in the business, like, bureau or whatnot to see if it was already a business, and it wasn't, just somebody had the email. So I threw on an extra E in there.
that's okay because my last guest was Dr. Rob Kelly, but he spells Rob with two B's. So I had to make sure people knew that when they put the email in there
Yeah.
too. So it seems to be a common thing now these days. So I had it happen to me with my photography business years and years ago, where I had an old website. I got rid of it for a while. When I went to get it back, somebody had already taken the same name. So, and the funny thing is, they had the same middle initial as me also. So it was
Oh,
really way
no.
out there. So, um, but but no, I'm glad to see things are going really well for you. Is there anything you got coming up that might see you on, or any speaking engagements you got coming up?
So I'm gonna be doing a podcast with Powwow Pitch Canada, tomorrow actually as well. I ran for Powwow Pitch last year. I was one of the finalists up for like 20 grand to go to the business. Out of 4 people, I was a finalist, and unfortunately I didn't win, but it was an amazing opportunity to get my face out there and just kind of get some speaking, knowledge and stuff like that. So it was really fun. So I'm gonna be working with them tomorrow, and then other than that, I'm kinda just facilitating workshops, trying to get this book out, and, yeah.
No, that sounds awesome. And before we leave, do you have any last words you'd like to throw out there to all of our guests?
I would say last words, you can always create something good out of something bad. I'm, like, pretty open with, like, the traumas that I have went through, especially, like, with my business of, like, speaking my truth and stuff. I think that it's important to shed light on the darker times in your life, and you can create something beautiful out of it. Those who wanna start a business, don't be scared. I was so shook to start a business. I didn't know what to do. I have no prior entrepreneurial, like, knowledge. I jumped headfirst into this business, and so far, it's been going great because I'm not, I'm doing it authentically, and I'm doing the root of my reason is, to help others, and it comes from a place of love, and if that's how you're operating, then you can't really ever lose, right? So, that's my advice.
Definitely. I always say if you're going to want to do something, if you're always going to wait till either you're ready to do it or you feel you're ready to do it or you have the money to do it, or if you're always waiting for, you're always going to be waiting. Sometimes you
Yep.
just have to jump into the deep end, as they say, and
Mhm.
sink or swim. The only way you learn is by failing. There's no such word as failing. It's a learning experience. If you do something and it doesn't work, go back
Yes,
and try it again and try something different than that. So it,
absolutely.
look at Donald Trump, the president. I mean, how many times did he fail in businesses and that? Now look at him; he's the president of the United States. So
Yeah.
no matter what you're doing,
Not
it's
a
not
good
how
one
much you fall
either.
down or how hard you fall down; it's how you get right back up again, right? So um, I'm glad to see things are going well for you, and thank you for coming on here, being humble. I know some of the stuff you were telling us are things that very personal to you, and I know it's going to help some other people out there to see that even in the dark times, you can get through it. And look at you now. You're doing amazing. So proud of you and your book. And we're going to meet up sometime in the next couple of weeks, and where I'm going to get an autographed copy of your book from you for sure. We're going to go for coffee or something like that. And I want to thank you for being a guest on today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to our coffee link up for sure. I'll make sure I sign the copy.
Thank you. And to everybody else out there, I hope you enjoyed this show. And don't be afraid to go back onto the website, butlersbabble.com, or our YouTube channel, and check some of the past ones that we've had and watch for the new ones that are coming out, because we got more of them coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I want you to watch it. Until next time, remember, if they ask, say the butler did it.